Welcome or welcome back. My name is Matt, and the topic of today's short video is how to show up for your own life. In the previous video before this, it was life and about the art of taking up space. And this video, we're going to talk about how to actually, as you as a human being, not as a cell or an organelle or any random out there living thing, but you as a person, how to take up room in your own life. But before we get into it, if you like what you hear in the video, give it a like, give it a thumbs or whatever. I don't know how, but comment. You know how this stuff goes. You know what I'm saying? Hit me with what I'm saying. So to keep it short and brief, every decision in life is a negotiation between the fantasy space that you have internally, like where your imagination is, where your ideas come from, the you that is in your head, this between the ears, and certainly the you that is also attached to your body, and reality, right? It is a negotiation, right? Like, so internally, as children, we go, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be, I don't know, something cool, right? And then we go, someday I'm going to be this thing. Someday I'm going to be XYZ and ZYX. And the kids that really, like, really want to be astronauts then go on and do all the astronaut things that reality requires them to do if it's becoming a whatever. I don't know what goes into being an astronaut. But, like, there's the internal play of what I want to be and then the external reality, right? There's two separate kinds of real estate. The internal real estate of you, like your imagination, your fantasy, your awareness, and then the external real estate of reality as it is, the chaotic thing that it is, and the inputs that come from it. And as a social creature, so much of what people get stuck on are the ways that we have been taught to show up, or the ways that we have learned to show up in order to get our needs, wants, and desires met in the realm of the people that we are around, right? Like, we enter this world knowledgeless, sweaty dependents. We don't know anything, right? Like all we have are needs and desires, right? Like, babies enter this world like needing to be connected and needing to be close and needing to be fed and swaddled and cared for. And they didn't ask to be that, by the way, but they enter into the world with a whole host of needs, and they don't stop being dependent from 0 to 1 or 0 to 5. Human beings have like the longest gestation and adolescence of damn near any creature on this planet. Like, we stay young and dumb for a very long time, and in that time we certainly need the support of others in a way that we don't necessarily need as we get older, but it doesn't change as we get older. Like, we never stop needing people. There's never a point in time where we stop needing people or stop needing support or stop needing community. But like, especially during that critical period in youth, like, we put on and take off different identities that sort through and kind of help us figure out our place in the world. It's natural, like it's a part of growth. And the challenging thing is that so often in life we take up roles that don't serve us, but we don't put them back down because we don't even realize that we're taking up roles. The only way to show up for your life is to show up for your life, is to make decisions and to make choices that are yours and with your own awareness, because you get to participate in life, right? Like, the last video about life being the art of taking up space was very heady about like cells and molecules and all these things that like have to choose to be in relationship with one another and yada yada and X, Y, and Z. And while all that is true, practically speaking, as a human being, there you can live and die and never have experienced your own life, like never had experienced decisions with a sense of agency, which is a huge part of being an I, right? Like, being, like, when I say being an I, it's like when you go, I am this or I am that or I am the other. Like, that sense of agency to say, this is what I am expressing myself as, or this is what I want to do, this and the third. Like, that there is a part of the agency, like making those decisions and making those choices. Because the human brain is like, the human brain is racked with loads of psychological defenses to stay away from accountability and to stay away from the price of making choices individually, because a lot of the times, for a vast portion of the history of humankind, very literally for damn near all of it, like, moving as an individual as opposed to in the collective has meant death, but or separation, which ultimately, again, as we established in our last video, meant death. But the only way to show up for your life, especially in a day and age where we are going to be asking why a lot more than we ask what or how. We're going to be asking why we're doing stuff. The only way to show up for your life is to show up for it. Is like to go and explore, to go and be curious, to go and make decisions and to learn, right? Like there's a difference between the internal real estate that you have here, right? Like your brain, your fantasy, your ideas, the things, all the things that we enter into the world with as a baby, right? Like as a baby, we don't have information on how anything works. We're built off of information, right? Like all the information in the DNA, all the family history, all of this, all of that. We have like preset wiring as to how we'll grow and a trajectory, but you don't know nothing. All you know how to do is cry and beg for help. We stay in these things because they kept us safe and not because they keep us safe, right? Like as a child, maybe your parents didn't have time. Like maybe both of your parents were working and they only paid attention to you when you did something extremely valuable or you did something that would make them look good. And so now you feel that love is something that you must work for, that you must earn your way into every room. And maybe, especially in the world that we're in, you get applauded for that a lot because like people are like, you're an achiever, you do this, you do that, you da 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 da. There's like this feedback loop because everybody's getting something from you working so hard for love. But you do more and you feel less attached, you feel less connected, you feel less this, that, and the third, because it's like I'm doing all this stuff and it feels like love is conditional because the love that you learned had conditions on it, right? And so it's like challenging because the world will applaud you for being on fire in a certain way. And there's so many different templates. And it's like the person has a subconscious script that goes, I will not be loved unless I perform in this way. Then it's like, it's really not the stuff that you do. It's about figuring out a better blueprint for that. Right. And so showing up for your own life is about understanding the needs that you have inherently as a human being. We need to have healthy community. We need to be able to like be connected. We need, the whole Maslow's hierarchy of needs of the food, water, shelter, self-realization, actualization, whatever else. Like there's a whole list of these things. But in society today, I will say certainly there's a huge amount of barriers that have been broken down like never before that have not been broken down before. Like the destruction of proximity has been one of the greatest benefits and trade-offs of human history, right? Like having social media, having things where we can go and see people and meet people. Like you can make a friend online that's on the other side of the world and really have that person be the best person in your life right now, right? Like you can meet somebody online and get married and they're like 5,000 miles away and they can go, catch a flight there right now, right? Like the destruction of proximity has allowed tribe to move from 100, 250 people groups to like anywhere in the world. And our brains have not caught up to that ability to go and find people that are exactly like you, right? We have been in situations where we are blind spawned in around people that may or may not like what we like or believe what we believe, but more likely than not won't, and have to live with that and have to work with the dissonance in order to survive. And the world has been blasted open in a very short period of time, and it's going to continue to get blasted open, by the way, with all the tools and technology that's entering into the world. Things are going to continue to change. And so the question is not going to be how, it's going to be why. It's going to be why. And so in order to show up for your life, you have to understand why you're here and why you want to do the things that you want to do, what you're interested in, what you care about. And there's going to be blockage. You're going to have internal scripts that tell you that things do or don't make sense for a certain reason, right? Like whatever it is you want to discover. Maybe it's like, okay, I want to try something new, but like if I fail at this thing publicly, then I'm terrible and I'm unlovable. Even though that sounds insane, there's so many people live off of that script. So many people are like, I cannot fail publicly, or I cannot do this, that, and the third. And so people don't try. And so people never get the external information from reality internal, right? Because there's this internal space that we live with where the feedback loop is immediate, where the friction is non-existent. If in my mind I go, I'm an astronaut right now, then I'm an astronaut. Right. But in reality, to become an astronaut, it takes a lot of steps. But it takes a lot of steps to do that. And I need to have motivation, which is like discipline over a set period of time in order to be able to actually do that. And what that will bring me back may not even be what I'm thinking internally it'll bring me back, but it'll bring me back different things. Right. So the only way to learn is to have a feedback loop from reality where you go, this is what I believe. This is what I'm going to test in reality. This is the information that reality is giving me back. And this is what I'm going to do about that information. Right. And so one of the most important things that you can do is get a better understanding of your internal narratives. Right. The only way to show up for yourself is to recognize the self that you're showing up for. What is my internal narrative? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe to be true, both good and bad? Because that is the lens by which you will digest information. The truth can be staring you right in the face, but if your narrative is not ready enough for it, if you don't have room internally enough to be able to digest it, it will always look like a threat. It will always look like something terrifying. It'll always look like something that you have to look away from. And your subconscious mind will do you the favor of turning your face away from what is real and true in order to not put you in pain, right? Because your brain is built for pleasure and to avoid pain. Like that's what's kept human beings alive up until now. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself in order to show up is to figure out the kind of person that you are. Figure out the archetype. Especially, it is, I think, to a certain degree, easier the less you've lived life, if that makes sense. Because you will be an archetype of person. You will be an archetype of person. There's a lot of people that don't do X, Y, Z, that have one thing or don't do this and the third. You will be an archetype of person. Figure out what your archetype of person is. Figure out the words, the language, the name for it. Even if it's painful to come to hear, or even if it's painful to do this and the third. And like, look, and I honestly would advise you to look for the negative archetypes first, right? Like if you deal with codependency, if you grew up in a narcissistic household, right? These are like, they're not even just buzzwords. They're words that are in like the cultural zeitgeist right now, but are very relevant in regard to like archetypes. If you have like attachment issues, right? Like figure out what archetype of person you are, figure out your mapping and how you subconsciously have gone about looking at life already. And that will show you what you believe. That will show you what you believe, and you'll have a better understanding, because the moment you understand what your core fears are, what your core needs are, what your core beliefs are around a certain thing, and you give yourself room and you give yourself grace to go, okay, this is how I've been and this is why this made sense, right? Because like maybe you hate yourself for no good goddamn reason. Like maybe you're like, I suck, I'm trash, I'm not good. I know I've been there, right? Like, and it's like you don't even have the emotional room to accept yourself. And maybe maybe you haven't even done anything wrong. Like maybe you're a perfectly okay person. Like nobody's perfect. Everybody's a mixed bag. Maybe like all intents and purposes, like you haven't done anything crazy, right? Like, and maybe even out of the hate for yourself, you do less and not more. Like you stop yourself from doing things. You stop yourself from going out. You stop yourself from interacting with people because you go, I'm terrible. I'm not good. I'm not this and a third. It's like, where did that start, right? Like more likely than not, it started from some role you picked up when you were younger. It started from some ideal or some mentality that you had when you were a kid that you have to deal with, right? Because as a child, it is so much easier to hate yourself than to hate the people that are taking care of you, because you need those people to take care of you in order for you to survive. And so your brain will do you the favor of making it your fault. Your brain will do you a favor of making it about you as opposed to about the environment that you're in, because again, you don't know enough about the world to know what's correct or what's incorrect. And then by the time you get older, you might have built a life out in a way that is built off of this belief that you are this way. You might have built out so much of a life that it feels like so much of a loss to pivot away from this life that you've built off of this belief of whatever it is, to be able to put that down and then go, okay, this is what I want my life to look like instead. Because you will have to give up. You will have to give up a life as you have known it up until then for a life that you have not experienced yet. But I promise you, on the other side of it is like better. Like when you go, okay, these are the decisions that I have made. This is the life that I've built intentionally based off of what I enjoy. And that's a long process. That doesn't just come out of the blue. That doesn't just happen immediately. It takes time to get there. It takes a bit of time and grit and grace to get there. But like, in order to live life on your terms, you have to be able to look at yourself practically. Figure out the archetype of person that you are. Figure out the archetype of person that you are drawn to and attracted to. There are clues everywhere. And then deal with yourself with grace. For me, the way that I've done that up until now has been like, I do things like breath work, I go on walks, I go to the gym, things that engage my body and make my body feel safe, because this is much easier said than done, right? Like some of us have so much stuff packed up and so much stuff physiologically where approaching these things feels terrifying. Like it feels like the end of the world. And so for me, the thing that's helped me has been breath work, because it is very literally my body's forced to calm the hell down and forced to approach these emotions in a way where it's like, okay, these are here. But then I know I'm safe. And I'm able to do reprogramming work, because I'm like, okay, like I do love myself. Like I'm not a bad person. Like the reason I think this is because it was easy for me to think I'm bad than to think like my environment's bad, because I couldn't do anything about it then. And I can do something about it now. And so for you, whatever that is for you, it is about figuring out your sense of agency, figuring out how you can take up room in your life for you. Because it's like, you gotta show up for yourself. The only way to show up for yourself is to show up for yourself, and to figure out what skills you need particularly in order to do so. So that's the end of this ramble. If you liked the video, please tell me that you liked it. Let me know. Say something in the comments. If there's anything that I can improve, please let me know. Like, oh, make it shorter. Oh, say less words. Oh, put this here and here. I don't know. I'm taking feedback. So let me know. But that's all for this one.